Welcome to the Oregon Department of Forestry's e-notification system, also known as FERNS. Today we will be showing the updated notification process as it's been modified from the original design. And this will give you a step-by-step process on how to notify both as a small forest landowner and also as a non-forest landowner. The first step you'll do is click the Notify button, and this will bring up a new notification. Here, this remains the same, where you will name the notification, the operation name. The updated part is now every notification that is created needs to identify whether the landowner for this notification is either a small forest landowner or a small forest landowner. And what this means is a small forest landowner, if you select this, is the landowner must be certified as a small forest landowner, which means they own less than 5,000 acres of Oregon forest land. Not Oregon land, but Oregon forest land. They have harvested an average of less than 2 million board feet of Oregon timber per year for the past 3 years, or we have an emergency exception for that. And they intend to harvest an average of less than 2 million board feet of Oregon timber per year for the next 10 years. And this emergency exception is really if they are planning to exceed this, they can work with the Oregon Department of Forestry with an exception, which meaning you have to raise funds to pay estate taxes or for compelling and unexpected financial obligations or court-ordered judgment or extraordinary medical expenses. So there are exceptions to the 2 million board feet. Those do need to be reviewed by the Oregon Department of Forestry before those are granted. And then the last part of a small forest land owner notification is you need to attach a road condition assessment, which is a document that allows you to dictate what type of roads are on the unit being harvested and what condition those are in. And last part is, if you have any questions, you can select this Find a Forester page, find your location, and click on that map, and it will bring up the forester for your area with their contact information, and you can reach out to them and they will help you with this notification process. We also have a link here to the small forest landowner information page, which explains this process. Now, if you are not a certified small forest landowner, the other option that you have is selecting you are not a small forest landowner. And what this does is it changes the notification process flow, and I'll show the difference between the two. But this states that you are acknowledging that the landowner will be required to follow the forest road inventory and assessment requirements that is new. It's called FRIA. And this is a larger requirement documenting roads on your Oregon forest land and the condition of those roads. If you select I understand, you will be able to notify as a small forest landowner. For this process, I will go through the small forest landowner and notify for a harvest operation. So we are doing an operation that excludes applying pesticides by helicopter, apply for a permit for use of fire or power-driven machinery during the operation, and then notify the Department of Forestry and revenue of the intent to harvest timber. The next step in this is mapping where the operation is going to take place. For this example, I'm going to put in Vernonia, Oregon. You do a search, it will bring up the town of Vernonia, which is located here in the middle. I am going to zoom in on Vernonia. And here the map will bring up Vernonia and the surrounding areas. You may own property outside of Vernonia. You can put in your address. Maybe it's on Reservoir Road or Kesey Road up here. You can put in your address there, but for this example, I'm just going to choose a random forested lot outside of Vernonia, Oregon to notify on. As part of this, to make this easier for you to find your property, let's say the system doesn't recognize your address, which this is updated using Google address information, but it isn't necessarily updated on a timely manner. So if your address isn't in there, but you can locate where your property may be, there are different tools that we have that makes it easier to identify your property. Now, first, this is a street base map. We can switch that over to an aerial, which these are updated about every 2 years. So here you can see the aerial imagery of properties around the Vernonia area. And then we also have a topographical, which may make it easier when you're notifying on where you're actually going to be doing harvests or any other operations. But for now, I'm going to use the aerial base map. And then to make things a little easier, we have included tax lot shapes. We do not provide the way to search by tax lots, but we do have the shapes. So you can see in here that you may own this property down here in the lower left section. That tax lot is a large square. You can see there has been some harvesting on it, and we're going to use that one as an example for harvesting. Then the other tools and overlays that we have available are the township range and section, which you can use township range and section to search for your the property that your operation is going to be on. And then we also have roads, an advanced road map on there. So you can use multiple overlays over the top, and you can use multiple base layers, which will change it and make it easier, whatever's easier for you to notify. I'm going to use the aerial and the tax lots just to make as an example. And then to draw the unit that you are going to be operating on, we have the tool here where it opens up this add new unit functionality. Here you will name the unit. I'm going to call it the harvest unit. And then here you will select what the activity type is. And we have harvest activities, which range from biomass removal, changing land to non-forest use, chunk boxes, clear cut. There are several things. We have roads, which is constructing stream crossings, a road construction and reconstruction, and road vacating, which is new, and stream crossings vacated, which is also new, as those are part of the new forest practices rules, where we are offering incentives to vacate older, non-functioning stream crossings and older roads that are no longer used, and put them in a update them so they do not. The stream crossings allow fish passage, and the road vacating doesn't do any erosion or debris into streams. There's also the chemical application here. You can do a counter-ride spray, you can do an herbicide application on the road, or an actual unit, insecticide, rodenticide. There's several options. This does not include application of pesticides using a helicopter. That is a separate notification process. Other items that are in here are fuels reduction, juniper harvest. There's power-driven machinery only, where you will be doing cutting, welding, grinding. These are all for operations on forest land. And then there's other specialized things on the bottom here, which is railroad line maintenance, stream riparian habitat enhancement, utility line maintenance, and then some generic ones here. If you can't find what you're looking for, you will be asked to clarify what those activities are, so the forester reviewing your notification can understand what the operation is there. For this example, I'll be using harvest. And here, this is a unit drawing tool, which means I have to put at least 3 points on the map to make a unit. So I'm going to use this small area down here and draw my first point. And you can see my drawing tool is making those points. And then to complete your shape, you find your final point and double click. And that will outline your tool. Now you save this, and you have the option of editing your unit. Let's say you want to move a point over. You can move this, you can expand it. You can do anything to this notification in this shape before you submit it, so it's fully editable. So this is where you will add an additional unit, or you can do your activities on this. So we've selected that we're doing a harvest, and we've drawn our harvest shape. Now I'm going to go into the activities part of this. So you can see our harvest is 36.7 acres, but there aren't any activities associated with this. So you will click Add the Activity, which will add the details of what this is. So you did select Clear Cut Overstory. You can change this activity to any other unit or drawing of the unit activity type at this point. You're not stuck with whatever you selected at first. Here you will put 1,000 board feet. I'm just going to put 1,000 board feet in there for now. And then you will select the start date. The start date typically is 15-day waiting period. So you will select that as your starting point, start date. And your end date can be when you expect the operation to be complete. I'm choosing a date in October. Here you can add any notes or remarks about the activity, what is going on, and then you select which method you are going to use for this clear cut overstory. And I'm going to use cable and ground as the example. So for this is when you select who the operator is for this activity. You can use the same unit and add multiple activities on here, and each activity can have a different operator. It doesn't have to be the same one. So on this example, I'm only putting one activity, and I'm going to put myself as the operator. And so here you can see here's the information we've put, and I've added the operator here. I will save this information, and it will bring us back to the activities page. Now what you'll see on this page is what your riparian management riparian management area practice option is. This is where, as a small forest landowner, you have options of taking advantage of older Forest Practices Act buffers that are available only to small forest landowners. The first option is it's not applicable. You're not going to be harvesting in or near any RMA, which is riparian management area, which is near a stream. So you can select that and it just isn't available. Another one is standard practice, which is using the updated Forest Practices Act buffers, which instead of 100 feet is now 110 feet. The measurement is different. The third option is you can do your standard practice, but you get a forest conservation tax credit for the difference between the old buffer, which was 100 feet on a large fish stream, and the new buffer, which is 100 feet, 110 feet on a large fish stream. So along that harvest area, along that stream, that 10-foot buffer, for example, would get a forest conservation tax credit, meaning that you will get a credit on your taxes for the value of the timber in that buffer. And there's information about the forest conservation tax credit on the small forest landowner information page. The fourth option is the small forest landowner minimum option, which means you can harvest down to the old buffer width on the streams. So this applies to both fish and non-fish streams, as well as the tax credit. And you can actually harvest down to the example I keep using is 100 feet on a large fish stream rather than the standard practice of 110 feet. And this minimum option is available per watershed. And when you draw your unit, it will tell you if this minimum option is available. If it is not available, there will be a big box up here that says, minimum option isn't there. When minimum option is not available, the forest conservation tax credit is actually 125% of the value instead of the standard, which is 100%. So this is dependent on availability within the watershed and is updated once a year based on harvests within that watershed. And then if none of these apply, we do have options exclusively available for significantly disproportionately impacted parcels. It's not a common practice, but this means you will have to submit a forest management plan demonstrating the parcel qualifies as significantly disproportionately impacted. And this either gets you an exemption from the watershed cap, which is when the minimum option is not available, or it gives you the forest conservation tax credit at 125%. This is not a very common, but it is available to small forest landowners that may not qualify for the other parts here. On this one here, I'm just going to use the minimum option, meaning we will be harvesting closer to the stream than the current Forest Practices Act buffers are. Once you have selected your riparian management area practice option, you can move on to your contacts. This allows you to dictate who your landowner is and who is the timber owner. For every harvest notification, there has to be a timber owner, and you will list those here. So for your landowner, I'm selecting myself as the landowner. You will also need to certify that the landowner qualifies as a small forest landowner. So you will select this, and here it says you will certify the small forest landowner status pursuant to section 16 of chapter 33. It basically summarizes what a small forest landowner is, which is you own or hold common ownership interest in less than 5,000 acres of forest land in Oregon. You have harvested no more than an average yearly volume of 2 million board feet of merchantable forest products from your forest land in the state in the past 3 years. That's an average. And then you affirm that you will do no more than 2 million board feet per year for the next 10 years. If you qualify, you certify that, you select this. If you don't necessarily qualify under that, but you feel there is an exception to this, this is where you will select the option to have the stewardship forester review what it is in there, then look at the reasons that you may have exceeded this, and it is the reasons that were explained before, which is pay estate taxes, an unexpected obligation, court-ordered judgment, or extraordinary medical expenses. I'm going to select I certify. And that will show the status as certified for the landowner. I'm going to select myself as the timber owner. And then it's required that you put a fire emergency contact in here. And so I'm going to list a fire contact is the name, and the phone number is, this is the name of the person you will have on Firewatch or available in case there is fire detected on or near your operation. Once you have all of that in there, you will select Next, and it will take you to the Site Conditions page. On this page, there are 3 sections. First is slope stability and clear-cut adjacency. Here we ask there evidence of past or ongoing or potential mass soil movement or landslides in your activity area. And these are all pre-selected as no or not applicable. You are not required to document this, but it is helpful with the stewardship forester to understand what the ground is like around the operation area. So this would say, are you aware of any soil movement or landslides? If you know what is the steepest third of the slope of the steepest third of your activity area, if you know what that, to the nearest 5%. And are you aware of any high landslide hazard locations within the activity area? The last is, will your proposed clear cut alone or with adjoining clear cuts you own exceed 120 acres? And this is the 120 acre limit on harvest areas. So if you harvested in the past couple years and then you're now harvesting adjacent to that, if those two operation areas exceed 120 acres, you will need to have a conversation with the stewardship forester and figure out a different plan. The next section is waters of the state, and this is a new question that we ask is, did you notify the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife that you intended to complete an operational field study related to stream flow? And this is a new requirement in that Oregon Department of Forestry and Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife are conducting stream flow studies and doing those studies in the field to get better quality information on the stream types and any fish presence there. So if it's not applicable, you're not going to do it. You don't have to do anything here. If you are not, you definitely not going to do a field study, you can select I test there will not be a stream study completed, and then you're done. If you are going to do a stream survey, you can attach that stream survey to this notification for review by the forester. The next area is indicating whether you're aware of any water resources within 100 feet of your proposed activity area. Is there a stream, a spring, a lake less than acres, or a lake larger than 8 acres? And select a yes on any of those. And if you're aware of any of the following resources within 300 feet of your proposed activity area. And is there an estuary, a wetland, an important spring, and this applies to Eastern Oregon, a bog, or a domestic water supply? This is something that we are keeping track of as well. And then the last area are you aware of any of the following wildlife resources within 1/2 mile of your proposed activity? And that's either a bald eagle nesting site, foraging perch, roosting site, or the band-tailed pigeon springs in the area, great blue heron nesting site, marbled murrelet nesting site, northern spotted owl nesting site, osprey nest, and key components, or any other threatened or endangered bird species that you may be aware of. So we've reviewed all of those and we selected the relevant ones. The next step is attaching the file to this notification. So we said here we were going to do a stream survey, but we're also required to do a road conditions assessment because of the harvest, and we are a small forest landowner. So how you select your file, you select your document, is to look for the document you're wanting to upload. And I have a test RC document here. And then you select the tag of what is in this document. So it is a road condition assessment, but it can also have other tags. Let's say the stream survey is there as well. So you will select those tags and upload that document. Now, if you make a mistake, you can delete this re-upload it and select tags. Or if you realize that you didn't select one of these tags and have already submitted, the Stewardship Forester can edit those for you. So now we've attached our road condition assessment, because this is a small forest landowner, and a harvest. And then we also said we were going to do a stream survey. So we have all of that in one single document. The next part is the summary. So this is where we summarize the notification, and it says that we've applied for a permit to use fire or power-driven machinery in operation that excludes pesticides by helicopter, the intent to harvest, and then that we are small forest land owner, Forestland. Those were the things there. Here you can see which office is responsible for this. It is the Columbia City ODF office and the forester here, and here's their name and email address. Summarizing the notifier. Any notifier comments. So is there anything here that you want the Stewardship Forester to know about this notification? This is also where you will add a comment if you are looking to waive the 15-day waiting period. That's a common area where that is there. Who is the landowner? Who is the timber owner? Who is the fire emergency contact? The activities, units and activities, the site conditions, anything that we selected yes to, and then the uploaded document where it is a stream survey, road condition assessment, and we are done. So once we are complete with this, we will hit submit, hit yes, saying we have to wait 15 days before the operation is done, and then we have successfully submitted the notification. You will get a notification ID up here once you have submitted. It shows the submit date, and again, the Stewardship Forester will be following up with you. So that is how to submit a small forest landowner harvest notification with the updated e-notification/ferns system. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your local Oregon Department of Forestry office or the Stewardship Forester that you've worked with in the past, and they will be more than happy to work with you. Thank you.